Welcome back to our new and improved podcast. We have changed the name, Tasha.
We did. Improved is, well, we'll see.
It's getting there. We are
It
now
is.
Deadly Dissection, and Tasha made a cute little banner and everything for us with our little doll on there, which we still need help naming the doll.
We've gotten there have been some good suggestions that have been dropped on my post. I think one was Voodoo.
Yes, I like that one.
Um, there was another one. Somebody said Byron, which cracked me up. Um, but yeah, there's been some good ones floating around. Nothing that's like hit yet.
Yeah,
So
I had somebody on mine suggest the name Morty.
that would be great.
You want to tell? You want me to
Mortimer.
tell you what's that?
Mortimer.
Mortimer, Mortimer, Morty, Mortimer. Okay, we're getting there. Do
We'll
you want
figure it out
me
by
to tell
next year.
you what, if I could have my way, what I would name it?
What?
Baby Chuck Norris.
He doesn't look tough enough to be Chuck Norris.
Baby Chuck Norris. You mean he's like all stitched and he's got like an eye that looks like he got punched? Little
Nobody
button eye.
leaves a mark on Chuck Norris.
It's Baby Chuck Norris. Nobody can defeat him.
But they also like can't even like lay a hand on him. Like he's that good.
Right. Nobody can lay a hand on
I
Baby
mean, I
Chuck
guess as a
Norris.
baby, he'd be more likely to take damage.
There's always going to be Baby Chuck Norris in my mind, no matter what we name it. So just deal with it. You'll hear me blurt out Baby Chuck Norris and know what I'm talking about. So, but yes, we are still taking suggestions for names for our little mascot on the
Yes.
channel, the little voodoo doll looking thing that Tasha created. So, any suggestions, just put it here in the comments or put it on social media, everything. Hello, voices from the mausoleum. I see you waving in
Aw,
the chat.
is Angel here?
Is that
Aw,
Angel? Hello, Angel.
what's up,
Thank you
boo?
for hopping in the live. So,
Okay.
yes, taking suggestions. So if you come up with a cool name, just hit us up with it and we will put it on the list. But tonight, oh my gosh, do we have a good one for you? I'm excited about this one. This movie, Us, by Jordan Peele, is my favorite that he's done. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Get Out, I like some of his other stuff, but this one has depth and layers upon layers to it that I cannot wait to get into tonight. And this was your first watch, wasn't it? This round?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of those like I've heard nothing but good things about it for I mean it's been out for 6 years now, so it's been a while. Um but I just hadn't gotten around to watching it. I have a few that are kind of like that, but yeah, this was my first and second watch and I mean it's fantastic. I liked Nope a lot and Get Out was really good, but I think I'm kind of on the same page with you as to this being ugh, my favorite Jordan Peele.
Yeah. Now, Get Out has like some of the things I liked about Get Out was like just creates this really awkward tension. Us has just this level of terror that Get Out doesn't have, I think.
Yeah, and it's um I mean the comment I made to you earlier is like the second time you watch it, it's like an entirely different movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you end up with knowledge that you didn't have the first time you watched it. Um and I feel like it's usually the opposite. Like once you've seen a movie the first time, that you might pick up some new things after you watch it, but you're not going to have like an entirely new experience when you watch it again.
Yeah.
And he pulled that off really well with this one. So,
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Tasha, tell us about us.
um, so my name is Tasha. I'm a Sagittarius, and okay, let's see. So per IMDb, it's got a 6.8 out of 10, which is pretty freaking good for IMDb.
It needs to be
Um,
higher.
people, considering what they usually do to movies on IMDb, um, I can deal with that. Um, so in order to get away from their busy lives, the Wilson family takes a vacation to Santa Cruz, California. At night, four strangers break into Adelaide's childhood home. The family is shocked to find out that the intruders look like them. And also, on that note, they did a really good job with the trailer because from what I knew or anticipated from the movie, it was just about them and their family. I didn't realize that it was this much bigger picture for everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I am not even going to try her last name because I will do it so much disrespect. But Addie is played by Lupita. I want to try it. Nyong'o, maybe. Um, she's phenomenal. If she didn't, did she get awards for this film?
I'm not sure.
If she didn't, she should have. Like she, ugh,
I agree.
absolutely killed it. Winston Duke is her husband Gabe, and the other couple that they're friends with that pop up, Elizabeth Moss, who I had said something to you about how good she was in the Invisible Man
Yes.
reboot. She's been really good in like everything. She kind of has that haunted look to her.
Yeah.
So she is Kitty. Tim Heidecker is Josh Tyler. He sounds familiar. What else is he? Um, I don't really see a lot of very high or well-known things under his
Yeah. He has
whatchamacallit.
some lesser knowns in this film.
Yeah. Um, Zora and Jason are Addie and Gabe's kids, and it's Shahadi Wright Joseph for Zora, and
Mhm.
Evan Alex is Jason. And oh my god, those kids are just a riot. Like they are so good. The dialogue and like how snappy and witty they are. I
Yeah.
just absolutely love them. Um, so those are really the oh, and then young Addie was played by a little girl named Madison Curry, and she did really well too.
Hmm.
Um, for the time that she's got on screen. Um, so yeah, it was it's a doozy. Like they're she's 5 years old at the beginning, and her parents have her. Looks like it's a boardwalk. Oh yeah, because it's there at the beach. Duh. Um, in Santa Cruz, and you can tell that there's a lot of discord between them because it's like everything he does, the mom's got some kind of criticism, and he has to comment on the criticism with sarcasm, and they just do
Hmm.
this like bickering back and forth. And this poor girl is just kind of like trailing behind, doing her own thing, um, which I felt like one of the really easy off the top themes to pick is like it doesn't take long for something bad to happen. Like you close your eyes for 2 seconds and they're gone. Her mom goes to the bathroom and her dad's busy winning a carnival game and she's gone. But that shot of her on the beach with the lightning behind her,
Yeah.
that looked so good. So she wanders into like this fun house. What'd they call it? Vision Quest, I
Yeah.
think.
Vision Quest.
And she comes face to face with a little girl who is a carbon copy of her. Not in the Hall of Mirrors, like an actual carbon copy. Um, and obviously that traumatizes her. So then it's like her as an adult, and she's in. I think this is where it picks up. Like they're just getting to the house. Um, her husband's driving, kids are in the back seat, and they get there, and there's like the standard teenage conversation of, oh my god, my phone's not connecting to the Wi-Fi. What am I gonna do? And the chaos of settling into a vacation home. And I was kind of annoyed at this point because Gabe is, well, that's kind of a later point, but like his disregard for Addie's feelings um at the beginning, like pretty much anything that she expresses any kind of opinion against, he
Mm-hmm.
either like guilt trips her into it, or like it's not like malicious manipulation, but you can tell that he's used to getting his way when
Yeah.
it comes to stuff. But that dinner they have, when I don't even remember now what swear word it was that Jason dropped, but when he comes back at Gabe with when you point a finger at somebody else, there's three pointing back at you.
Yeah.
Like, such a little smarty pants. Um, so they go to the beach and they meet up with their friends who are like the most stereotypical rich white
White
couple,
people. Yeah.
can't stand each other, but they clearly don't want to put the effort into a divorce that would cost them um their what's the word? I want to say cost of living, but it's not, like their
Their
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
Um,
Yeah.
they would obviously sacrifice a lot, and they both appear to be alcoholics, and they've got these twin girls that
We're
are a
obnoxious.
little a
Oh my.
little weird. Um, and they're just kind of like hanging out on the beach, and Jason disappears to go to the bathroom, and Addie realizes that he's gone, and she freaks out. And of course, the first time you watch it, you're like, well, of course she's panicking because she knows what experience she had. And
Uh-huh.
then the second time you're watching it, you're like, oh shit, like he was awfully close to that,
Yeah.
to finding out what her secret is at that
Yeah.
point. Um, and they go home, like she's panicked at that point, and the fun is pretty much over for all of them. Um, and again, like more of Gabe dismissing her feelings and just kind of like letting it roll off, I guess. Um, Biggest observation at this point: don't live in a house with that much glass. Just, just don't. I mean, first of all, you have to keep it clean. But the second anything even remotely dangerous happens, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're gonna sit there and watch it crumble. Um, and yeah, so then they realize, Jason, I think it's Jason that realizes that there's a family standing out at the end of the driveway.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, from the height differences and stuff, like, it's oddly similar to the stature of everybody that's in the family.
Yeah.
Um, and Gabe's attempts to go out there and intimidate them are just,
They're humorous.
oh my God, he's such a mess. Um, but they realize that it's essentially them standing out at the end of the driveway. And he takes a baseball bat, goes out again, and the kids scurry. Like, that's the only word I can think of for just how creepy it was that they
Yeah.
took off.
That scene just kind of like, when you hear them
Yes.
take off.
Ugh, it's so awful. Um, so, obviously the family breaks into the house, the other family, and, they're all coming face to face with themselves. And we get kind of this story from, I called her Shadow Addie. I think they listed her in the credits as Red.
Red,
Um,
yeah.
but Shadow Addie,
Shadow
do you
Addie.
still
We'll
with
go
me?
with Shadow Addie.
Shadow Addie. And she tells this story about how, she's had to live in the shadow of this lucky little girl who, life has been wonderful for her, but every wonderful experience she's had has been a horrible experience on the shadow side. Like, she doesn't get any of the comfort or the luxuries or any of the things that, we all take for granted at this point. And her entire life has been dictated by everything that happens to Addie. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like she doesn't even really have any kind of control over what happens to her. Um, and then obviously they want to murder them. The other family wants to murder Addie's family. And shenanigans ensue. Lots of scissors, stabbing, baseball bats. Their friends, they run to their, or not run, they hop on the boat to head over to their friend's house across the lake. They get murdered by their own doppelgangers, and you realize that it's a much bigger issue than it seems like it is.
Yes.
Um, and, it's this whole battle of, you know, people who've been living a comfortable life thrown into survival mode. I mean, it's kind of like a zombie apocalypse where all of a sudden they're, struggling against these people who look just like them, except they've been able to plot out what they were going to do. So it's not like a mindless zombie just shambling around. Like, this is an actual enemy that they have to plan around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and skipping all the back and forth with kind of the push and pull for power. But Shadow Addie takes Jason, and Addie follows her down into, like, through the Vision Quest into where the Shadow people had been living.
Living, yeah.
And it's just this, like, desolate, like, if you were ever to go into a mall or a high school at night and there's like the low lights that are on just enough to keep things lit, it just has like that spooky,
Mm-hmm.
disused vibe. And you find out that all these people have been living down here, just like, tethered to these people on the surface with no say in their lives or what happens to them. And, there's no health care, there's no cooking and like anything that at this point we think of as a staple.
Yeah.
That is all luxury to them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this awesome scene, the ballet. Oh, it was so good. Um, and she kills Shadow Addie and rescues Jason, and they escape. And then we find out that Addie is actually Shadow Addie. And when she stumbled on Addie as a kid, she like choked her out and dragged her down into this place and handcuffed her, took her clothes, and went back to the surface to live her life.
Yeah.
So, and you see Jason, like, that kid knows something's up.
Yes, he's very insightful.
Yeah. Which he shows quite a bit for seeming just like this crazy off the wall kid. There's a lot of things that he seems to pick up on. Um, so that is, oh, the other debate they had that cracked me up was the highest kill count in the family.
Yes, in the middle of all the chaos.
Yes. Um, Yeah. So mhm. I know that you have so much more about this. So I will bring up my points,
Yeah.
which obviously some of them will kind of overlap with yours a little bit. Um, the first one I had, like, first watch that jumped out at me was, people meddling with things that they shouldn't be and not caring about the consequences. Like Shadow Addy says at some point, they figured out how to duplicate Angel. I know, I should have watched it. Um, but you know how I am about movies. I'm so weird. Um, yeah, like they had somehow figured out how to duplicate people, and there were two bodies, but they were kind of sharing one soul.
Yeah.
So, and they, with no regard for what kind of quality of life they were setting for these people. They just did their experiments and then dropped it at some point and were like, meh, whatever. Like, there's all this space underground. They'll figure it out. Um, how much we take for granted and settle into complacency. Um, I mean, really any movie that has any element of survival, we definitely get that element that comes in there. Excuse me. Um, One that I specifically love because I feel like Barbarian did the same thing is the monster misdirect. You
Yeah.
spend the whole movie thinking that this person is the bad guy and this person is the good guy. And, not every monster has fangs dripping with poison and skulks around. And sometimes the bad guys look just like us.
Yeah.
So you can't take things at face value. Um, and then what was my other one? The disregard for mental health annoyed me. When they're in the therapist's office after, when we still think it's Addie, when she's had this experience and she's like traumatized and she quits talking. Um, Her dad is just like, well, she was only gone 15 minutes. She wasn't in Nam. Like, that whole idea that you have to go through war to experience any kind of
Trauma.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Um, but not anything else is just like child's play. Um, the mom, she just wants her little girl back. And it's kind of like that misconception of like mental health being, or mental health therapy being able to just fix somebody, as opposed to like, you've had this horrible experience, it's going to change you, things are going to be different. There's no switch you can flip for that. And then my favorite was with the second watch. um like, you see the first time this mother who is just like panicked about losing her kids and worried about the welfare of her family and making sure everything's okay. But then the second time you watch it, it's like, is she worried about her family or is she worried about being exposed?
Right.
Like, she's spent her whole life building this lie, and, they're right there on set. Um, Everything's staged for it to come crashing down, and you you can't help but wonder, like, how much suffering and misery could have been caused if, instead of just like choking this little girl out and taking her place, she had gone with her and outed, hey, all of these people are living down here. But
Yeah.
she was so consumed with like having to do what gave her gratification at that time. And I know she was 5. Um, but she's lived her whole life knowing that all these other people are down there living this horrible existence. And, but she couldn't, because Addie was down there, she couldn't say anything without disrupting her comfort and her
Yeah.
life. So she was just like,
Yeah.
I like my life. So you can all just suffer.
Sit down there and rot.
Yeah. So that was the biggest stuff on my side, which I know is like a fraction of what what you had prepared for this.
No, that was great. That was great. Thank you for sharing that. And you see that, you bring up her doppelganger doing that to her and choking her, and you see this theme of these people are so oppressed down there, like the only thing that is on their mind is vengeance, right? They want to get out, they want vengeance, they want justice for their oppression. And you definitely see that theme running throughout this movie, and I'll hit on that. But this was my third or fourth watch of this one, and I had gone back and found I'd started writing notes on it several weeks ago when I was thinking about doing this show. Us was one of the films I had wanted to do, so
Mm.
I had started making all these notes about themes, and then I just went back and added to that. But when I went through this film, there were really some deep layers that jumped out at me, and we've touched on one of them. A basic plot point is the duality and the shadow self with the doppelgangers and your shadow Addie, as you like to call Red. Um,
Chatty.
Shaddy, there you go,
Chatty.
Shaddy. So that's like one of the most obvious motifs that runs throughout the whole film is this idea of double, that every person has a darker counterpart lurking beneath the surface, right? That, I mean, you see that's the visual imagery. They're lurking beneath the surface, and the tethered is what they call them, and they are these physical manifestations of what Jungian psychology calls the shadow self. And it's basically that repressed part of our identity that holds all of our basic primal instincts, our guilt, our desires. And you see that in how these shadow selves act. They're very primal. And a lot of that is because they represent the shadow self, but a lot of that is because they've been caged and oppressed and treated like animals. And so the film, I think, with this theme suggests that we, all of us as individuals, and even you see this theme goes beyond the individuals, because what happens is these shadow selves start coming up all over the nation because they're tethered to everybody in
Mm.
the upper class. And it gives this idea that there's this part of ourselves, there's this part of society that we want to bury, and we bury them, and until these things rise up violently. The violence was the only way these people felt like they could get heard and could get their point across. And I think one of the symbolic moments with that is when Shaddy Red um, says we are all Americans, and
Oh yeah.
it
Um,
reframed for me. It reframed the whole horror that these monsters are us. They
yeah.
are Americans, and they're our own neglected reflection. They are a reflection of what we as individuals neglect in ourselves and what we as individuals neglect in society. And then that leads to the theme of the class division that you definitely see, that you brought up in
Mhm.
the plot, and even the things that you talked about, and the forgotten underclass. Right, on a societal level, Us is a story about um, economic discrepancies and inequality, and you have the tethered living underground, mimicking the actions of the privilege that you brought out, and they are the underclass. They're the unseen. They're the voiceless. Notice how some of them can't talk, right?
Yeah, the
Gabe,
grunting and screaming and
right. Gabe's counterpart, Abraham, I think was his name. He can't speak. He has to shout and make noises. And then you have Pluto, which was Jason's counterpart. His whole mouth is sealed.
Like burned because he likes
Yeah.
playing with fire.
And then Shaddy, which we know is really Adelaide, but she has trouble speaking. Her words are like staccato
Oh,
at times.
her
And
performance,
it
I
was
cannot
amazing.
get over how good she was.
It was
It also
amazing.
just occurred to me how funny it is in terms of like where we're at literally today, that the bad guys in the movie are all wearing these bright red jumpsuits.
Yeah.
Because red's a good color these days. Um, and kind of, I can't believe I didn't have this written down, but like the statement about what can be accomplished when everybody works together
Yeah.
for the greater good, as
Yeah.
opposed to just choking a little girl out and, you know, swapping places with her.
Right. That was a good point. Um, okay, did you know, and you may not have known this because you were born later, I'm older than you, but the Hands Across America in the film, that was a real thing in 1986.
I feel like I've heard of it. Um, we actually didn't even, from like the time that I can remember, we didn't actually get cable until we had it for a few years up until I was like 8 or 9. And then we didn't have it again until I was like 18 or 19. Um, so I was very out of the loop other than what I'd catch at friends'
Yeah.
houses and stuff.
So,
I was born in 87, so
so you were born a year after Hands Across America actually started. It started in 1986, and it was this charity event meant to end hunger, and it's used ironically in the film to represent empty gestures, I think, of compassion that doesn't really change anything at all. And I'll get more on that in a little bit. But this theme of the underclass, the uprising of the tethered, is, I think, a brutal metaphor for the moment when the ignored and the exploited finally rise up against those who benefit from their suffering. And this empty gesture of Hands Across America, this represents the things we do as a society to ease our conscience that don't help anything, right?
yeah.
We ignore the systemic issue that pervades this country, and we think that a president or somebody like that is going to change it, and it doesn't. It's going to change when the people say enough is enough, and we deal with the systemic issue rather than coming up with some little thing to pat ourselves on the back, to make us feel better, to act like we did some compassion.
Mhm.
It takes more than that. And I love that he shows that, oh, there's this big Hands Across America thing to end hunger, to end this, and it doesn't do anything to help the tethered. They still stay down, they still stay oppressed. Nothing changes for them because the issue is deeper than that, and it is systemic. And politics can make it worse. We see that. Definitely see that. Um, and so it is coming to a point when we as a society can say, you know what, enough with this crap that just makes us feel better, that, oh, well, we did this, or we did that, or we went to this march or that, and all of those things are good and they need to happen. But at the end of the day, something deeper has to change because it's so deep seated and it's deep rooted. And we keep trying to elect politicians, whether Republican or Democrat, and we still face the same issues, and it's
Mhm.
still systemic. It gets worse when you have certain people in office, amen, um, that that can clearly, I mean, we're seeing it, the oppression and the injustice. Um, but there has to be a wholesale switch and change. But what
Yeah.
drives it, and the reason there is no change, is because of greed and power. And we would rather just ignore the oppressed, or we would rather do something to make ourselves feel better, like, oh, hands across America, we can pat ourselves on the back, we did something to feed the hungry. But it
Yeah.
doesn't change. It doesn't change.
That one day a year that you spend 2 hours at a soup kitchen and are like, yes, I did my part, which is still obviously a great thing to do.
Right.
But, it's these people struggle all year long.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, like even around the Knoxville area, it's been a huge thing because the population of people without homes is just constantly on the rise, and it's always that battle between the people who are like, oh, cops need to go in there and clean them out. They can't be like staying there. It looks awful, and it's like what what part of this is so disruptive to your life, like you literally just don't want to look at them?
Hmm.
Because, and that, I think, like you said, with the guild, like here is this shining example of all of these people who need help and aren't getting it.
Yeah.
um and then you get the ones that are like, oh, they're just lazy. um and which kind of feels like another way to dodge any kind of responsibility for being able to help. Well, they're just there because they want to be. So what am I going to do that's going to make their life better?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Yeah. Now, as a Christian and a minister, like, I can definitely say that churches have to step up, like, in this. Like, I mean, this is part of what we are called to do. Our mission is to help the poor and the oppressed. There's so many things about that in Scripture, and so many things, both Old and New Testament, how God hates oppression. He hates when the rich oppress the poor, and when they are disregarded. He is a God who fights for the poor. He is a God of justice, and he hates that type of crap. It does not settle well with him, because he's a God of compassion and love and grace and mercy. And when he sees people who are already struggling, when they are downtrodden, that does not sit well with him at all. And so the churches have to do a better job of this. And all of us, like, definitely those of us who lean more to the left, the Democrat, and we want government aid, we want the government to help, but at the same time, right, we can't throw this on the government. Right, we have to take responsibility as people, as neighbors. Right, when we that's the whole love your neighbor thing. You see somebody suffering that you can help, like, help them. Like, this is going to change and start when we all take a personal responsibility to do what we can to help those who are going through situations like this. So Jordan Peele is preaching in this movie. And this this isn't the only part, man. There's so
He's
much.
genius. Yeah.
Um, Another theme I saw was the American dream is actually a nightmare.
Oh,
The
yeah.
film's title, Us, and I'll confess, when I first saw it, when it said Us, I was like, U.S. Is this about the United States? And it's really kind of a theme that I kept going back to in my mind.
Mhm.
Um, the you got the Wilson family there, the upper class. They got the vacations, the boats, the nice cars, and it reflects the American dream. But Peel questions that, and he questions whether that dream, is it worth the cost for those who are buried underneath it. Right,
Mhm.
when we get into, so in a lot of ways, he's talking about, in ways, how capitalism, with all the good things that it can also bring great evil and oppression.
Yeah.
And the horror lies in realizing that the comfort and prosperity that many people have is built on the invisible suffering of others. Right, you have
Mm.
this class in society, that the rich and the powerful, and they're living this great life, and then those underneath them are suffering and struggling, and they're treated like they don't exist.
And I
Or that,
think too, there's kind of the pulling the blinder over their own eyes when it comes to seeing that. But then like with Shaddy, I'm so mad I didn't think of that sooner. Um, she actively stepped on other people to get to where she wanted to be.
uh,
Like it wasn't even just like a I'm just gonna put it out of my mind kind of thing. Like she knew the whole time that what she had done was horribly wrong and tried to maintain that secret of what she had done because she didn't want to have to give up her life for it. Or her
yeah,
not even her life, like her comfort. Like she wouldn't get murdered. She wouldn't die. Like she would be saving all of these people, but because it would be that much of an inconvenience to her. It's like
yeah.
so good.
And speaking of Red and Adelaide, like there is this question. Adelaide asked early on in the film. She asked the question, "Who are we?" And like that to me, that question echoes through the whole story. The story is a critique of how America defines us and them. Who
Mhm.
are we? Well, he shows us who we are as a society. You've got this theme too of identity and trauma and repression, going back to the twist ending there. That's, you know, she's actually the tethered version who has swapped places as a child. And then you've got the idea of what we consider normal is usually built on deception and violence and things that we have buried. And it also, I think, shows how trauma shapes people. Adelaide represses her true self, living as someone else, but her past inevitably it resurfaces and everything catches up at the end and the
Sure
twist.
does.
Um, so
Well, kind of catches up with her.
yeah,
She manages to dodge it.
going back to that dance
That
between
was so good.
Shaddy and Adelaide, that dance I think mirrors the duality of so many things. Trauma being one of them. You've got the beauty intertwined with violence. You've got the control with chaos, the light and the dark, all of that double imagery going on there in that dance is so rich. Definitely. The other thing I wanted to bring out is Jordan Peele literally does preach in this movie. There are biblical theological themes in it. And the biggest one that jumps out is the verse Jeremiah 11:11. You see it on a homeless guy's sign, Jeremiah 11:11. You see 11:11 throughout the movie.
Oh,
At,
yeah, like the time on the clock and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and the Twins baseball game, the score um, is I think 11:11 as well. And let me read you what Jeremiah 11:11 actually says. It says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape." So it is this inescapable judgment. And in the context, the judgment is against those who oppress people.
Yeah.
So he's preaching on oppression and greed, and it's all there in the context. And so film plays like this modern divine parable of divine reckoning that humanity, the people they have buried, the poor, the broken, will come back for judgment. And the sinful self that we try to ignore, the greed, the lust for power, the this idea of selfishness, turning a blind eye, like all of these things that we try to suppress, it eventually comes back to haunt us. We can't escape it, and that's his motive here is all of these things that you've ignored, all these people that you've ignored, everything is coming back. It echoes also the story of Cain and Abel. Cain kills
Mm.
his brother Abel in Genesis. You also, the other thing I thought of was Greek mythology, Theseus and the Minotaur and the whole little labyrinth thing that they have going
Oh,
on in that mythology. And you got the labyrinth basically below,
underground. Yeah.
underground, with the tethered. And I even think you could maybe draw some imagery, even though Dante's Inferno, his view of hell is totally unbiblical. But this idea there of these people down there, I think there might be some correlation with that you could throw in there. Um, and you have this idea too, just playing off biblical themes, is you've got the judgment. You also have this idea that these shadow selves represent what the New Testament refers to as our flesh, like this part of us that is in rebellion to God's ways and his words. And when he tells us to love our neighbor, we don't want to do that. When he tells us to humble ourselves, we don't want to do that. When he tells us to, not to lie or cheat and steal, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. It's this part that bucks against loving each other, loving God, and the scripture refers to that as the flesh. And the imagery that the way the flesh is dealt with is through the crucifixion of Christ, that through him the old dies, he puts something new within us, then that enables us from the heart to love selflessly, to do all these things. And so you see this battle with the shadow self going on there, that I think is a biblical theme. We talked about divine judgment. You also see this idea, I think red or shady almost has this, not a full Christ imagery, but a very dark Christ imagery. Like, there were scenes in there where she said that she knew that she was called to something special, that she knew that somehow she was going to help these people at some point rise up
Mm.
and do this. And so you have this kind of dark Christ figure, but obviously she lacks the love, she lacks the compassion and
Mm.
anything of that. But there's definitely this sense of her that rises up for vengeance and justice, although there's no grace in the gospel that she preaches whatsoever. But you definitely get this idea there that she is wanting to eventually try to do something, and she kind of, her family starts that uprising of all of the tethered coming up and starting to take vengeance for all the things that they have been oppressed for. So those were some of the biblical themes that jumped out at me as someone who studies theology. But
That is interesting now that you got me thinking about it. Obviously, my knowledge of such things in a factual sense is severely limited. Um, but kind of looking at it from a generalized perspective along those lines, like she is this girl who is brought from the surface world, this totally different place, and she's got all of these qualities and capabilities and thought processes that none of these people have. And she's kind of been placed among them. So, and she ends up being the one that saves them. So I can see where that comparison
yeah,
could be made. Excuse me.
And I'd definitely say, going back to the Hands Across America thing, you have just this performative compassion. Um, uh, the tethered, I almost see a symbolism. So you see the Hands Across America, right? Everybody's joined hands. And then you have the tethered who are connected to these people. And then if you remember in that last scene, kind of in the classroom where she's cutting the people thing, like there's this connection there um, with it. And this was supposed to be a symbol of unity and charity in the film. And it's basically just a parody. And scripture speaks, I hit on this earlier, that without like repentance and turning from your ways and saying, look, we have oppressed these people, we are sorry, like justice is hollow. There's some passages in the book of Isaiah, one of the prophets in the Old Testament, where he counters those who spread out their hands while ignoring the oppressed. And like that scripture jumped into my mind because you see the Hands Across America, their hands are spread out, this performative compassion, but they are ignoring the deep-seated issues there that are running through this film. So that was just some theological images. Now, we've got symbolism throughout this movie as well. This isn't done. Like Peele's not done. He's not done. You think that these motives in all of this that he has done so far, you think he would be finished, but he is not. Did you read any symbolism into the scissors?
I mean, in the sense of like severing the ties, I did.
Yeah.
But they also kind of looked like all of those people with their hands out, standing. Know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you open the scissors, hold them open. Um, I noticed that when I was posting earlier and used that emoji. How's that for the first world
Yes, I saw that.
line drawn?
So the other thing I would add to that, right? You've got they symbolize the desire for freedom to cut the tether, and the violence needed to achieve it in this film. But the other thing I think that is brilliant about the symbolism of the scissors, and I would love to talk to Jordan Peele to see if this is true or if I'm just reading into this. But when you look at the scissors, they are I think, a literal visual of the embodiment of duality. You've got two identical halves joined together to function
Mm,
as a tool,
yeah,
right?
that makes
Uh,
sense.
and do you think the tethered forming together got one soul? And we should be as a society, two halves together for each other, performing a function, but that does not always happen. Um, did you read any symbolism into the red jumpsuits?
I mean, they kind of looked like prison jumpsuits
Yeah,
from that. And also, they said they were bright red, but they obviously weren't MAGA themed.
yeah. Um, now you could go there definitely.
And it kind of contributes to them being faceless. Like they're just all devoid of personality, thoughts, feelings. Um, it just kind of it made me think of the lab bunnies. Like they're just there to serve a purpose as opposed to being recognized as their own individual entities.
Yeah, yeah. The red jumpsuit. I thought of the prison thing, definitely, but I also thought of blood
Huh?
in making the connection with the violence with the scissors. Red being the color of blood represents both the life and violence that the tethered need to claim back the humanity that was stolen from them. So it's
Yeah,
gives this idea again of vengeance, right? They've suffered the injustice. They're ready to take back their humanity, and nobody's listening to them. Nobody cares, so they start having to resort to violence in order to accomplish that. Um, your rabbits. It's another symbolism.
okay, if I was gonna change anything about this movie, and I understand that doing it the way he did it was also a statement of its own, but the amount of time spent focused on that wall of rabbits at the beginning, I was just waiting for something to happen to these poor things.
Yeah,
Um,
you message me, oh, dude, they better not
yeah,
kill these rabbits.
I will be so mad if any of these rabbits die. And some of them did because Shaddy says at one point that this girl, the little girl, had her meals served to her warm and cooked and delicious, and she had to eat raw rabbit. Um, but I feel like since because of the experiments that they did on these people, or that these people are a result of, seeing all of those rabbits loose at the end, they've been let out of the cage. Good luck putting them back in the cage. It's out there.
Yeah, yeah. I saw it. So I started thinking about, okay, what are our rabbits? And I did ironically thought about Journey. um,
I
y'all
still haven't
don't know,
done.
that is one of Tasha's horror hounds. But I thought of rabbits being they're basically prey animals. They're
Mhm.
prey animals, and it looks like these ones in the film, they don't look like wild rabbits, so it looks like they're bred in lab. And rabbits are also innocent. And you look at the tethered, right? It says in the movie that they were bred in labs, and then stuff went wrong, and they just shoved all these people underground to get rid of them and ignore them. And so you have this innocence and victimhood that the rabbits represent.
That makes
Uh,
sense.
and you got them in the underground tunnel. Their food, like you said. They also, I want to say, I don't know if they're. I'm trying to think back because I have the idea that maybe they serve as some sort of companions for the tethered, and representing like this distorted substitute for companionship, that is so abundant that the surface world enjoys. Like we've got all these animals and all these things up here, and down there, all they got is these stinking rabbits
Hey,
for
they're
any
adorable.
type of companionship. But think
Yeah,
about it, all you had was a bunny rabbit, right?
yeah.
No dogs, no cats, no nothing
Well, and
else.
also in the glimpses of them that we get, even as far as interacting with like their own children and stuff, um, it doesn't really seem like they inherently have that need.
That's true.
Um, because and we know that Shaddy has it because she's not really one of the tethered,
Right.
um, and she's actually this person who comes down from the surface, with a taste of what life is like and what people are supposed to feel and do and function really in our entirety. Um, and obviously to some extent the other tethered picked up on it, but you wonder how much, um, what am I trying to say, like how much of that she was able to impart on them beyond just a let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
um, I I don't want to like create another movie out of it because this is perfect as standalone. But I would love like some backstory as far as the experiments that led to the creation of these people,
Yeah.
and what their day-to-day life was like.
Yes. So we'll just stick with the rabbits then being maybe one another, those symbols of innocence and victimhood. That kind of shows another metaphor for the tethered and what was done to them. So that is all I got.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is-
I could have extrapolated more on some of these subjects, but at that point, I would just be on a soapbox ranting,
yeah,
and I'm not going to do that because I feel like the film makes the points enough
he does.
for all of us to examine ourselves and to see that, because we see ourselves in both of these people in a lot of ways. And I think sometimes we can see how we ourselves are part of the problem when we don't do what we're supposed to, when we don't speak up, when we don't help. And then I think some of us too have experienced that
From
type
the
of
other side.
oppression as well. And so we can find ourselves intertwined and identifying with both of these characters. And then you got the twist, like who's really the monster at the end? It's not the tethered. Is it
Yeah,
really the tethered, or who? He kind of makes you wrestle with that. Who's the real monster in this film?
yeah, yeah.
So
I one of my other friends that I was chatting with about this also had some interesting comparisons to Barbarian. Like once I made that initial link as far as because I excuse me for my tangent for a second. Um, I was so annoyed. I sent or recommended Barbarian highly to a couple of people I worked with at the time, and they went and saw it and came back and were like, "Tasha, that's the dumbest movie I've ever seen in the whole world. Like this whole time, this monster is really just this poor offspring of this horrible human being." And I'm like, "That's the point." Oh, thank you, Angel. Um, like the whole thing is that, she is this monstrous looking creature. And then as you learn more and actually figure things out, she's not the bad guy. I mean,
right,
not in the concept that or the context that we had her as one. So I really liked seeing that similar kind of line here where it's like he said, I mean, sometimes the bad guys look just like us because they
yeah.
kind of are us somehow.
This movie is meant to give you some introspection. Um, and we are at some point going to do Barbarian. I know we've talked about that.
Yeah, we are.
That's on the docket. That will be up. But
Yes.
next week we will be doing Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
So good.
Yes, it's good. So we're
So
going to
good.
be breaking that one down for you. And I'm going to have my
Yes.
work cut out for me. I'm going to have to dig in deep for this one and pick out some philosophical and psychological themes that are lurking just beneath the surface.
I bet you it's going to be a lot easier than you think it is
It
once
probably
you get
is.
going.
I'll get
There's
I'll
just
get in the
fine.
zone.
Yep.
I'll rewatch it for fun the first time because I haven't watched it since last Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
I'll
I
rewatch
saw
it
it in
for fun.
theaters when it came out.
Oh, you did?
Hmm.
Shoot.
It was actually on a date. Um, and it was a pretty good experience seeing it like up on the big screen.
Yeah,
Especially with some of the kills they have and stuff like that. It was effective.
yeah, that was a fun movie. So yeah, we'll be breaking that one down, get you into the holiday spirit for Thanksgiving.
Carving it up.
Yeah. Um, I'm glad we're doing this one, and you didn't suggest one of my other favorite Thanksgiving movies, Thanksgiving.
I mean, there is this coming Tuesday, and then the Tuesday right before Thanksgiving.
That one would really challenge me. And that's the other thing. If y'all want to suggest movies that you want to see broken down, or if you want to try to really get under my skin and suggest something horrid and force me to find something in these movies worth talking about on a deep
Really
level,
dig
then
deep for that
then
theme.
go for it. We're open to suggestions, and we're open to fun too.
Yeah,
So, Latasha, you were back for your second show.
I
Thank
was.
you.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yes. Um, and I appreciate you making our little voodoo doll, Baby Chuck Norris.
Should we
for the
just
channel.
call him that at this point?
No, because we need something cute. Like Trick or Treat has Sam, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
I love Sam. Sam is adorable. I want a Sam. Like I want a real Sam. Like if I could have a little Sam walking around with me all day long, I would be like, it would be like heaven on earth for me. So we have to come up with a cute little, or somebody out there has to come up with like this cute little cool name for
Yes.
our little doll, so we can have our own little Sam.
Someone said, I don't know if anybody, have we had a Stitches yet? I can't talk.
Stitches. I don't think we've had
Stitches.
Stitches.
I feel, do we have one?
Did
I
you?
don't know.
I don't know.
We're
We'll have
adding
to,
it to the list though.
we'll have to
Our
go back.
little voodoo baddie. It's so cute.
Voodie.
Yeah.
So, well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you will look at this movie totally different, and if you ever go back and watch it again, that you will think about all these things, and that this movie will leave the impression on you that it has on us. See what I did there?
I can't even be mad. That's something I would say.
That's exactly why I wanted you to come on the show with me. Do this.
So much
Yeah,
cheese.
I know.
All of it.
So, any parting words, Tasha, before we end the stream?
I don't think so. Well, I mean, if you've only seen this once, definitely go back and watch it a second time. I said it's like a whole new experience once you have just that one piece of knowledge. It's amazing how much it shifts the entire perspective of the movie.
Yep, I second
He's a
that.
master. He's a master.
Yes, he is. So come back next week at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and join us as we break down Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Thank you, everybody.